Welcome to Direct Supply's Continuing Education webinar series. Direct Supply offers monthly webinars on a variety of topics throughout the year. The topic for today is Making an Impression with Senior Living Design Trends. My name is Robin Malik, and I will be facilitating today's meeting. Please note, the information contained in this presentation is intended to provide general information but not advice about certain regulations and initiatives. This is not intended as legal or other advice, and each situation may vary depending on the particular facts and circumstances. You should not act upon the information without first consulting with qualified legal counsel. Today's webinar will be presented by Jeanna Swiatkowski and Amanda Zemlicka. Jeanna has been working in senior living for over 13 years. In this time, she has seen the trends in senior living flex and change to the sophisticated, timeless look we are seeing today. She has had the honor of working on our Impressions campaign for the past 2 years, helping to influence the styles and trends you will see today. She is passionate about senior living design and works with clients to discover the best solution for their residents, staff, and the community as a whole. Amanda has a background in interior architecture and sales with a knowledge base in senior living, corporate, clinical, and high-end residential design work. As a design consultant, she takes great pride in designing new spaces and refreshing existing interiors for senior living communities. And now, please welcome Jeanna and Amanda.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to go over the trends that we are going to touch upon today. Today, we're going to talk about open concept, fresh, flexible wellness, shared meals, eye-catching artwork, inspiring outdoor spaces, tech forward, and color trends. I'd like to kick us off with the first trend, open concept. Open concept is an extremely popular trend in residential right now. I'm sure most of you have been seeing this, whether it's on TV, things that you've been hearing through some of the magazines you've been looking through, as well as some of the concepts you're seeing or hearing about at trade shows right now. These types of spaces in open concept tend to be open and airy, encouraging active and engagement spaces for your community. I'd like to go into some of the different areas in this that create that heart and that hub of your community, creating a stronger sense of community throughout your entire building or your facility, where activities happen and naturally people will want to commune in these areas. Open concept. Here is where we really look to inspire a relationship throughout the building. We create different areas of engagement and social interaction. We look at where is a good place for this type of a space to be. Is it near an entrance where potentially people can see who is coming and going? It also helps to show the vibrance of the community as well as showing different prospective families during their tour what the community really is all about. Also, we can look at it as maybe an activity room where we can draw residents into a space where they may not be wanting to or inspired to go to in the first place. Also, we are looking at different layers of activity in an open concept. Where can we have large group participation? Can we have smaller, more intimate connections? In this image, you can see there are some chairs sitting over by a television that is a smaller, intimate conversation space. Where in the larger open space here, it's where you would have larger group conversations or activities, maybe talking about the day's events. You can also have an area just to sit and observe. You can see closer to the window, there's a smaller area where maybe somebody isn't feeling as comfortable to be engaging, but wants to be a part of that open, airy space. I'd also like to touch upon potentially putting this into a dining space. Dining spaces are a great area for people to have an open concept. People are coming to the room to dine anyway. They would also like to be able to potentially sit there before or after a meal and congregate, talk about what's going on, listen to everything that's happening in the room. It's a great space to have it either in a dining room, that open area space when you first walk in, or potentially an activity space. I'd like to go into a real life scenario. This is a building that I have designed down in the Nashville area, and I've got a couple of different slides here showing those different engagement zones that I've talked about. So you can see on the first spot, when you first look at the image, you see some chairs sitting around a open bar space where people can come in the morning, have potentially a continental breakfast, sit down, read the paper, slowly become a part of the engagement or the activity that's happening in the community room here. You could have your morning breakfast, coffee, juice, get started with the day. Potentially somebody could sit down and have their coffee in the lounge chairs that are adjacent to this space. A nice soft area where you could read the newspaper, have a conversation with your friend and talk about what are the day's activities that you're going to be engaging in.
Or apparently you can have wine.
Or you can have wine. I was just going to get to that part. Thank you, Robin. This is also a great spot where as the afternoon winds down, maybe meet there, have a glass of wine, a cocktail or a mocktail, and go over what happened during the day or what is the evening plan that's going to happen. What are you looking forward to at dinner time? You can also, in the afternoon time, there's a table and chairs towards the back here. You could sit down, play a game, do a puzzle, just, again, sit and talk with somebody. Maybe you want to sit with your iPad and talk to, play a game of maybe Words with Friends or do a crossword puzzle or something like that. So you have different layers of engagement throughout here. As we go to the next room, you can, right around the corner, I'm going to flip right back, behind that glass space where you also see the plants, that's the area we're looking at next. So you can see the plants off to the left-hand side, but another engagement zone. So we've got a couple different areas in front of the television and the fireplace where you can sit. You can either watch sports, you can play a movie over here, you can sit and talk with friends or family. There's also another engagement zone a little further back that is in a nook, so it's a little bit quieter, maybe a little bit more intimate if you don't want to be a part of the television show or the movie that's happening back there. So it's great with an open concept, you can create a lot of different layers and areas of engagement in these spaces. And you don't have to have one space to do this. You can break it up, as you can see, without opening up too much of a wall or anything to create that concept.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of different options for open concept.
Definitely.
How do you go about trying to figure out how you want to achieve it?
That's a really great question because a lot of times we don't have the liberty to open up a wall or do anything like that. So how can you go ahead and get started on an open concept space like this? Really looking at the different types of engagement zones that you can create. So looking at, do I need to move walls? Do I not need to move walls? A lot of times we're not able to move walls, but you want to create that. So even in a smaller space, creating that open feeling with taller window treatments, different varying heights of furniture, bright bold pops of color help with that also. Opening up a window space, not keeping it closed off with blinds or roller shade or drapery, just creating that sense of an immense space rather than smaller window treatments that are going to close in the space as well as colors.
Yeah, those windows really open it up.
It does. Also, things that you can look at are creating activity and dining in one space. That does help that create that open concept, whether it's looking at transforming it from dining to activity, having different spaces. I have several different designs that I've been working on where I've been creating different sizes of tables in those spaces, where it's a larger farmhouse table potentially, as well as different dining spots too. So there's a lot of different things you can do in here to create the different types of open concept within the space that you currently have.
Yeah.
You don't have to have everything tall ceilings, open walls. There are things that you can do currently with the space that you have.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeanna.
Yes.
All right, we are going to move on to trend number 2, which is fresh, flexible wellness. And Amanda is going to tell us about this one.
Yes, thank you. Fresh, flexible wellness. There's a lot that you can do with this topic and a lot of inspiration that you can pull from it as well. Reimagine your current activity multi-purpose space into more. First things that I would ask is to yourself what works and what doesn't work in your current space right now. It's a great place to start. At that point, really working through other inspirations is how can you support this current program that you have right now? How can you make it better? And also look into the future and what else can you do? So through the possibilities, one of the first things you want to focus on is really making sure that your furnishings also support a very flexible and wellness space. So as you can see up on the screen, there's a lot of potential you can do with the flexibility of the furnishings. In a space like this can create a separate activity experience that rejuvenates and inspires residents. This can be through specific lifestyle ideas, residents that may have certain passions for different areas. Now again, this can be regional. This can be also a space that's very flexible. So for example, up on the screen, we're showing an easy-to-assemble dance floor. Now, this can be a dance floor for a variety of uses. This can be in the morning. You can do some easy stretching on the bar that we have set up, as well as a fun ballet, or even better, later in the evening, you can have a happy hour and a full social event around it.
Have you seen anyone do ballroom dancing in a space like this?
Well, that's exactly it. So the ballroom dancing can also turn into a very large event that you can bring in people from the community. You can have a lot of fun around it. We've seen it where it's themed for certain holidays, so let's say Christmas time, spring events. You can do a fun social around. There's a lot you can do, but what it comes down to it is making sure that that space is flexible, and this can be created with the furnishings and the furniture side of it. Speaking to flexibility in furnishings, start making that list and creating what do you want to add to your community, what kind of experiences do you want to have. This specific area really is created by the extra programming, focusing on music, for example. What can you do that inspires people on the music as well as overall experiences? This event area can also be for outside events. You can create a space that instructors can come in, local artists, local musicians. Also, be open to different genres as well. This specific space that we're showing really showcases a little bit of that jazz kind of funky culture, which of course is a lot of fun. This specific location was Carmel, Indiana, so it had a lot of great features to it.
Have you seen any other activity areas designed besides or around activities besides music?
Yes, definitely. Music can open up a lot of barriers for a lot of people, but at the same time, there's also a lot that you can do with the fun hands-on activities where you can get a little messy and just have fun. So on that note, this maker space gives you a lot of opportunities for activities. This space is very much set up of how can you create and how can you imagine and what can you do in a space like this. Doesn't necessarily just have to be painting or a couple crafts here and there. How can you broaden the offering in your program? Through this, you can do by pulling people from community events. You can also do great activities like, for example, sewing quilts. You have an area for sewing. As you can see, that's a taller table. So again, it gives you that extra space to collaborate with people. Then you've got another seating area shown in here where there's a variety of things you can do. For example, woodworking. We're seeing more and more communities doing that. I mean, you can be making birdhouses. You can really have fun. Ceramics, we're also seeing as well. So on the topic of ceramics or woodworking, you think, okay, this could get messy. So you can see in the space that doing hard surfaces, doing things that are very cleanable is also something to definitely consider.
And fun artwork in there, too.
Exactly. This is a great place to be inspired. The stained glass window really makes the space as well. And this is something that, again, just adding some color, not being afraid of it.
Great. All right. Well, we are going to move on to trend number 3, which is encourage shared meals. And Jeanna is going to kick us off for this one.
I am. So as most of us know, mealtime is the most important event of the day. There's so much passion and so much around that experience that we really need to look at how can we create that to be much more encouraging and wanting to draw people out of their apartments or their rooms to come to the dining space. So as we all know, dining is not just a social, but it's also a very health conscious type activity for the day. We want to make sure that it feels inclusive no matter what's going on and what maybe your dietary experience is, but also inviting based on the seating, the colors, the artwork, everything that's going on in that space. A couple of the things I wanted to touch upon when it comes to encouraging shared meals here are a lot of the different varying offerings that you can create. As we all know, dining and meals are very hot again right now also. We look at creating different spaces, whether it's a cafe or a bistro, a farm to table space, just a regular dining space, as well as creating different zones in your spaces. So things that you can really start to look at and consider are larger or smaller type tables, creating a 2-top, 4-top, 6-top, or even larger type space that some people can sit down and have a meal at. What are the different heights of the spaces? In this image here, you can see we've got a taller booth or banquette that people could sit down at. It's real great. You can see here we've got chairs on one side and a booth or a banquette on the other side. So it doesn't matter if you have some abilities where it doesn't allow you to egress easily in or out of the booth or the banquette. If you are more limited, you could sit in the chair. If you're possibly in a wheelchair, you can remove the chair and pull up to the chair and still have a great experience with the rest of your friends and your family. Consider the shape and the flow of your room also. Does your room offer a quieter area? Does it offer a larger, more expanse area where you can fit more of those larger tables where you can sit down at? Could you do a large farmhouse table or potentially a large 60 to 72 inch round table? I think of the Knights of the Round Table, how wonderful was that? They would sit there together as friends, talk about the day's events, really enjoy the meal together. If you're enjoying the meal, you'll want to stay longer and enjoy the space.
Yeah, I had heard of farm to table as a restaurant concept, but I didn't realize it was making its way into senior living.
Most
It's
definitely.
exciting.
If you think about it, there are a lot of communities that have garden spaces. We'll touch upon this a little later
Sure.
about bringing the outdoors in. But how can you create a whole program around your dining experience that way?
That's fantastic.
Really rethinking your dining experience than what it is right now, but what could it potentially be also. That would create that well-balanced ambiance that you're really looking for to encourage people to come
Sure.
to your space. The next one we have here actually is one that I'd like Amanda to quick touch upon. This is a project that she's been working on that really goes into how can you look at your space and take different table sizes, different areas to sit, and create that whole ambiance in the dining experience.
Exactly, Jeanna. So a dining experience is very much that ambiance, that feeling when you walk in, that wow factor, why you want to come here and why you're excited for your meal. Seeing up on the screen on the plan north, the upper portion of this plan, you are first experiencing this space by walking into the entry. It immediately sets the tone. You have a host station. There's a lot of drama and formality when it comes to this dining room experience. So the first thing you see is the drama of that host station, and I say that because there's a great accent wall behind it, and again, you have that friendly face to greet you. When it comes down to it, this space, the idea of 2-tops, 4-top tables, and lounge seating really gives that resident choices. Choices are huge when it comes to I want choices of what I'm eating, but I also want choices of what kind of experience do I want today. Today I want a more cozy setting, or maybe the next day I want to be more social and I'll sit on the larger table and have fun with my friends. So there's a variety of spaces in this space plan. For example, when you walk through, you can sit on some lounge chairs. You can either wait to be seated, or just simply enjoy the space, really take in the environment and the people walking around and the plants as well, because there is a lot of natural lighting and windows. So there's definitely a connection to the outdoors for the space. Other areas that we touched on that would really give you that encourage the shared meals is those banquette and booths. So this one also really shows that idea of flexible options in seating. So you can have that comfortable banquette for family or friends or yourself. You can also really set the tone when it comes to hosting events. This specific space is really interesting because there's 2 stages as well as a true private dining. So this can be transformed into an event for outside community or something that the community is actually hosting itself. There's definitely a lot you can do in this space.
So this seems like a design for a new build, I'm assuming. Is there ways to update your current space to make it more friendly?
Most definitely. There's a lot of things that you can do real easily it won't take a lot of time, it won't take a lot of thought to it. But really first look at, what do you want your dining experience to be? What is it currently, and how would you like it to be? Would you like to be able to have more of someone that comes in and seats you when you get to the dining experience? Do you want somebody to take your order? Or are you okay with potentially a buffet line? What are some of those different types of engagement? One of the big things to first look at are, how can you engage your 5 senses? That's a big part of it. Just think about it when you're coming into a restaurant and you close your eyes and you smell the food as you're walking in, and that gets your taste buds going. So the sense of taste. What do you see when you walk in? Can you see well what everything looks like? Is the lighting appropriate in there? Are there different varying heights to different seating groups? That really helps in creating a sense of engagement to not just seeing the same plane all over, but varying the heights really gives you some interest in the room. As you can see here, bold pops of color, that will help get your appetite going also. What do the textures on the fabric feel like? What does the tabletop feel like? What does the placemat feel like? What are the sounds that are going on in there? Think about a noisy restaurant where you can't talk to a lot of people. So again, it goes back to that. Do you have some quieter zones? Do you have some louder zones? How do you create a shared experience in there that people are very excited to come and be a part of? I would say really one of the other really quick things you can look at are, what are the table sizes and what are the table shapes that you have. That's a real quick thing. Just vary it up. Look at your space plan and move things around. Don't be afraid to try different things too. It's dining. It's supposed to be a lot of fun.
Right, absolutely. All right, so we are going to move on to trend number 4, which is eye-catching artwork. So Amanda's going to tell us about this one.
Yes, thank you. Eye-catching artwork. Artwork really provokes emotions and feelings and really becomes more of a destination space as opposed to, for example, another lounge seating or just a simple corridor. It really can add and also finalize a space. On that idea, really comes down to the right selection for the right room. An overall theme, which you can see up on the screen, is go bold. Don't be afraid to add that extra color. Don't be afraid to do unusual substrates or very unique actual imagery up there. This specific area is more of an arts and crafts multi-purpose space, but there's no reason why you can't do this fun art elsewhere. For example, this is a great lounge space. We had a lot of fun with color. This specific area, again, when it comes down to it, is very inspiring. This is, I need to sit here, I need to relax and really take this all in, but at the same time feel upbeat and want to, start your day in a space like this. Consider going very bright and colorful where it makes sense for your artwork. This can be a very easy, cost-effective, and flexible way of updating your space as well. This specific room brings in that drama and pushes that aesthetic. So you don't really have to always to do that traditional frame that you would think. It doesn't always have to be gold or an oil painted of landscapes. Look at how many other options you have. On that topic, just be creative. Be creative with how you treat the artwork. This specific one shown on the screen is a triptych piece of art. Instead of just doing one over a sofa, do 3 and make them very interesting with the framing and a canvas substrate instead. On the topic of being creative, this is
interesting.
Very creative and very different. This is one of those that you really need to experience firsthand because, again, it's tactile artwork. So the idea that you can touch and feel and really experience it. It doesn't have to be in a sitting area necessarily. This is a great way to freshen up corridors and a variety of spaces. That really comes down to that interaction that you need when it comes to the imagery. This can be to the point of being able to touch and feel. This also gives you some inspiration of wanting to go outside and experience more of this greenery. Areas that may not be as inspiring is a great place to go a little bit more creative with artwork. Other areas that you can do this and be a little bit more unique is also we have great canvas wrapped fabrics and things that I've done in designs where you're very creative with the tactile side of it. So artwork is endless. There's so many possibilities with artwork, and as you can see in this specific imagery, it really makes a space. What can you do to really pull it all together? This is a very local project. It's actually in Wisconsin. It really picks up on a variety of local and thematic pieces of art that myself grew up in Wisconsin that I would very much relate to. So for example, you have fishing in the local lakes nearby. There are a variety of scenes that I would directly relate to either my childhood or whoever is the resident there. What's great about something like this is it relates to visitors, it relates to residents, it also can relate to staff, or just simply start conversations. Artwork really can set the tone. Other things to consider when you're starting the idea of doing local art or thematic art is really start considering what is truly local, what is going to grab the attention of people that live in this space. So for example, if the community loves their high school baseball team, why not embrace that? You can do that through stylized photography of kids playing baseball. You can do that through shadow boxes. Recently did a project where we did some shadow boxes of vintage catcher mitts. So again, not just showing baseball, but how can you creatively show a topic? Dramatic black and whites of baseball diamonds is also a really fun, usual look to do.
Yeah, that's really a cool idea. Have you guys seen any other specific local examples in your designs?
Actually, I have. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
We believe it or not, we do a lot of thematic or regional type artwork.
Sure.
One specific instance, I had done a project out in Danbury, Connecticut, and they have a hat factory out there. So in talking with the residents as well as the staff there, we decided to, again, for wayfinding as well as for that thematic artwork and regionality, we decided to look at the different hat images or millinery images that we could pull from. So worked with the local artist as well as the Historical Society and pulled together a whole artwork package based on hats. And it was, what a wonderful, it was actually also a memory care space, so it was great for them to be able to tone back to the time, them remembering either themselves or their family members working in the hat factory. What beautiful pops of color too. It wasn't just, as you can see on here, black and white photography of it. It was some beautiful pieces. Again, we tried to make it a little bit more tactile. A couple of them had some feathers come off of them. So making it thematic as well as tactile, something that people could really attune to.
How fun.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you talk to the residents and the staff to get the idea. Do they sometimes bring those ideas to you, or do you research the local communities to bring them up?
Well, exactly. As a designer, there's a variety of ways of going about this, as well as reusing your artwork that you currently have. There's a lot that you can do with your existing artwork and what you can do to get started. One of the first things to get started is are you looking for a theme? Are you looking for anything very specific for local art? If there's certain colors that you're looking for. When you have a better feel for what your goals are, then start with what you have right now. Freshen up the frames, add a couple new pieces. We're seeing more and more wall galleries and groupings. So take some of your existing artwork and pull it all together and group it on a wall, which we actually show right here is the idea of pulling a variety of pieces of art, again, new, existing, and creating a more separate grouping area that gives you that extra drama, and also playing with different substrates and materials. So for example, let's say you have a variety of existing artwork that were throughout your community. You can combine it into one area and add a couple shadow boxes, add a couple contemporary canvas abstract art, and that could be positioned right by a more traditional landscape. So it's really starting to set the tone for your community, especially if you do it in a lobby space. Other ideas when it comes to artwork that can really freshen up your space. Again, you can have existing furniture, you can have existing materials, but that new piece of art will definitely make a difference. Other ideas to really get started and for extra inspiration is to not consider artwork as a static piece. That's the only place it's going to be, and it'll always stay that way. Simply moving a piece down the corridor from a lounge into dining room space, this can be something that you do once, but this also can be something more seasonal. Let's say you have that great showstopper piece of art every couple seasons, or even if it's just simply wintertime, you change it out. A great place to show that you care and that you want things to be updated and fresh. Other ways to not have static artwork is the idea of bringing in and really basing an entire event around an art gallery. This can be a traveling art gallery. It can be a local artist that comes in. You speak to it. You could have a course revolved around it. You can have a party revolved around it. I mean, there's really a lot that you can do. And again, artwork really speaks to the residents. So make sure to ask them. Ask what they want. See
I'm
what
sure they have
family
an
wants.
opinion.
Oh, exactly. People have a lot of passion around artwork. They will tell you if they love it or not. But that's a good thing, though, because that means that people are paying attention. They're realizing how much and how important artwork can be.
All right. Thanks, Amanda. So we're going to go to one I'm super excited about, which is trend number 5, inspiring outdoor spaces. And I'm excited because it's finally warm enough to use outdoor spaces in Wisconsin.
Yes, most definitely. And actually, speaking of a party, who doesn't want to go outside these days?
Right.
And some of the best things you can do is create those outdoor spaces for your residents and for the community members. How great is it to have community members come to your community, to your community, and do things that we've talked about. Have a party around a piece of artwork or a sculpture, an outdoor sculpture. Bring in a landscape architect to talk about the different areas in your space. Looking at how can you create a marketable space as well as a space that will draw people from the indoors out. One of the big things about having an inspiring outdoor space are the health benefits that are going to happen for the residents. As we look at a space like this, we have a lot of different areas that we've created. A dining space, a water feature. We have great lighting. That's also something to really think about. Lighting in the evening time should help encourage people to come outdoors. The longer they stay up sometimes and get that fresh air, the better they're going to sleep at
absolutely.
night. It helps encourage their circadian rhythms, having that sun coming down and them being a part of that experience, rather than being in an interior space that is going to be having lighting that's not going to be encouraging their circadian rhythm. Another thing that you can look at is what can you show as an interest, not just a water fountain. Looking at different features as a sculpture, maybe a walking garden, maybe a koi pond with a bridge, looking at maybe a putting green. What are the interests of your residents? Because those are the types of things that you want to create to bring them to bring
Have
them
you seen a
inside.
putting green?
I have seen a putting
Oh my
green
gosh.
and a koi
That's
pond
fun.
with a bridge on it, which is great. Actually, I have seen a couple dog parks too.
Oh, wow.
So how great is that to have community members bring their dogs? There's a lot of different places that do have dog-friendly areas, and having a dog park or dog space for them. How many people, we're a dog-friendly campus.
We are.
We just had dogs over coming by our space this morning, and how invigorating was that? Just looking at different areas and how can you create that excitement and draw people out of their normal activities. Here is a great example of some of those different activities that you can look at. I talked about lighting, not just having lighting, large fixtures that are going to create a pool of light out there, but different layers of light. Here we've got some lights strung around a different seating space that does help create that engagement and encourage people to want to be able to come outside.
And some light in the fireplace.
I was just
too.
going to say, and light of the fire too. How exciting is that you can have a safe fire pit for your residents where they can sit around it, have a great conversation of the day, another glass of wine maybe.
Maybe.
Or a mocktail, let's be honest here. Or maybe sit and roast some marshmallows, have your dessert in the evening time. Create an activity outdoors around that. Campfire stories. How much fun was that when we were kids, going to a campfire and telling stories about, the monster that came around or a tall tale that was happening. But creating that safe environment for them to do that. Furniture that's easy for them to get in and out of, that they feel comfortable coming and sitting in. There's also a lot of space around there where, again, if you're not able to easily get in and out of a chair, that you can still feel a part of that space. And you can easily move around the space, sit maybe somewhere in your wheelchair or on a walker, that you can be a part of everything. Another thing to look at is the different types of furniture that you have. Here we have some nice soft seating, maybe creating some rocking chairs or some gliders. It doesn't have to be something that's a safety issue either.
Sure.
There are a lot of different options that we have seen that do create a safe environment where people can sit on a front porch and rock and enjoy the environment. That, again, creates that health and that wellness that really we want to encourage in any community. Sitting out and getting some extra vitamin D, the fresh air, really, again, like I said, encouraging your circadian rhythm so that you have easier time getting up and staying awake during the day and have a better, encouraging, invigorating sleep so that in the morning time you're excited to get up and come back outside again.
That is always the goal.
I know.
So what's the best way for people to get started creating this space?
Sure. There's a lot of actually different things that you can be doing. You can look at how can you bring the outdoors inside. Maybe somebody isn't able to get outside as we would love them to be able to, but that doesn't mean that we don't have opportunities for them to enjoy the sunshine, seeing the sun phases. Some of the things that I've encouraged people to do is have bird feeders by an open area, have a water feature or a sculpture, something that creates interest for them to want to sit out there. If they're just staring at a parking lot or an open space, it's not as exciting as seeing the birds come, seeing the water feature as the wind is blowing sometimes, or where they can be a part of maybe the rainfall. Rain is a healing experience also. The sounds of it, the smell of it is also very exciting and something that people do enjoy. I know I enjoy watching the rain. So how can you bring the outdoors in, and where maybe can you create that? Look at if there's a nook in your corridor that is facing outdoors.
Sure.
How can you create interest there? Is there a sunroom maybe that you have, or potentially an entrance area that maybe is a little wider that you can have some seating that's out there, outdoor furniture as well as indoor furniture, and also create the reason to go outside. Take some dining space out there. Create a walking path where you've got some sitting spots for people to rest during that time. Gardening, what we talked about earlier, farm to table. Have an area where they can garden and create part of their meal, harvest it and bring it inside.
that'd be exciting.
It's so exciting to go out. I know we're getting ready to start planting our vegetable gardens. Be able to plant and harvest that food, nourish it along, and then bring it in and be a part of your mealtime. So I
Absolutely.
think there's a lot of different ways that you can get ready to create that outdoor space. I'm sure a lot of areas they're warmed up quite a bit right now, but we're all excited here that we're able to create those spaces and take part in that right now too.
Yeah. All right. So our next trend is tech forward. So, Jeanna, are we back to you on this one?
We are still with me.
What's new and exciting in the tech world?
So tech is really something that, as everybody knows, it's a trend that is really starting to take notice right now. Usually tech is more thinking about wee areas or theater spaces, but really it's much more than that now. The capabilities that are coming to senior living is really taking us into the future.
Yeah.
So some of the things that really you can think about are, what do you want to be able to create as a tech space? looking at the space here, we've got a lot of different areas here. It's not just what are the types of tech do you want to create, but do you have the Wi-Fi and the infrastructure to support that tech space? That's the first thing that you need to be looking at. Make sure that you have everything to support what you want to be able to do. Is it a Wii space? Is it something where you want to have a simple or an elaborate theater? Really, the space we're showing here could double or triple as many different things. So you could have a theater space in here, a smaller, intimate theater space. You can Skype with your family members here. You can also, as you can see, have a virtual reality space. Things to take into consideration when you're looking at what do you want to offer is how much space do you need for these? Theaters can be small. They can be very large also. VR space or a Wii space, you want to have an area where people can engage. VR gets a little bit active every once in a while. This is a great example of it. This is VR showing a walk through Central Park. How great is it? We don't all get to Central Park or other locations, the Grand Canyon, maybe to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower. But this is a great way that you can create and enhance a different activity area or offering to your residents than you currently are able to. VR is something that is actually, I'm working on a community right now that we are working on a virtual reality space also.
And what kind of furniture did you put in it?
I'm working on it. So it's actually a very small space. It's only we're taking one space and creating it into a virtual reality space. So looking at soft seating off to the back of it, but creating enough floor space where they can, as I said, get engaged, move around, and be a part of the virtual reality. And how exciting is it as a friend or a family member or whomever sitting there watching what I'm doing? It gets you excited and wanting to be able to do something like this also. So how can you do it right now? Like, just think about what do you maybe want to offer. Maybe it's a theater or an activity space. Maybe it's gaming, Wii, something like that. Maybe it's being able to roam around with virtual reality. You can also, other things to think about too are, as you can see here, we've got a popcorn machine. Do you offer snacks or food in that space? Are you offering a place to charge your iPads or your phones or your virtual reality equipment that's in there? So just think about, do I have the Wi-Fi? Do I have the infrastructure? Do I have the electrical capabilities? Do I have the room to be able to do what I actually want to do? Another thing to think about is, do I need light control when in this room? Because a lot of times there's going to be glare or something like that for the, whether it's a theater or a TV screen for virtual reality or gaming.
Are you already seeing a lot of communities trying to add this space into their existing
I think
areas?
It's more of a budding trend right now.
Makes sense.
Like I said, I've had so far one, and they were very excited about it. I do see a lot of theater spaces, but I think there's a lot of also reinventing maybe what a library space could look like. What could a part of an activity space look like? What could that computer space? There's a lot of computer spaces that we are seeing too. So again, like, what does that tech space really look like, and what types of things do you want to put into it?
Sure, it's always evolving.
It is.
All right, so last but not least, we are going to talk about color trends, and Amanda's going to talk about this.
Yes, color trends. Of course, as a designer, I have a lot of passion around the colors. So this specific color trend, again, we're seeing a variety of just simple color. In this one, we're really getting towards more of the real rich, timeless colors. For example, the navies that you see on this color trend. The idea of how do you play with different textures and tones, playing with different metals, wood tones, will really enhance a scheme like this. Also, something else to really consider, like any color scheme or any design you do, is to make sure that it feels appropriate and feels welcoming for a variety of people, and both male and female. So this exact color scheme really lends itself towards that welcoming feeling for everyone. Things that you can really pull this together with are those unexpected pops of color. This specific trend, this luxe textures, really, you get that pop from that chartreuse green. Without that, you are looking at a very simple palette, but that gives you that little extra pop that you need in this color, these color tones. So when it comes to coloring, this one actually, the subtle shades, is a way of really designing your space on the subtle side of it. How do you play with textures and neutrals, still get a very luxe palette that evokes a high-end, classy aesthetic? This one specifically plays into the idea of the textures, the neutrals. Like normal, anytime you do a space and anytime you are designing a space, make sure always to consider the safety side of it. This specific color trend has a lot of great places to use this, but knowing with aging eyes and safety, just make sure you still have a nice contrast. This one really lends itself towards a really rich, dark wood flooring or faux wood flooring. There's a lot that you can do, and then you can pop those light colors with the light marble tile or light neutral sofa.
So the faux fur is coming back.
If you ask me, it never went away. There's a lot that you can do. It's, again, that unexpected little twist, especially if you're doing a subtle shade of neutrals. You do want that unexpected texture or pattern or print. And in this case, yes, it's a faux fur kind of look. So the idea of unexpected, this one I would say is a very creative color scheme because it's picking up on the warm colors, it's picking up on the cools, but it's also really considering how to bring in nature, floral infusion. Have fun. Create a space or the entire building out of this color scheme. Really is going to set the tone for your community, a very fresh and cheerful environment. For example, a way to balance out the boldness of some of these colors is to pull in the touch of metal tones, the gray tones. This one specifically, yes, it has gray. It tends to be on the warmer side, again, to treat the space as a very fresh and cheerful area.
Do you have examples of where you've seen this style in a specific room?
Exactly. Between the style and the color, there's a lot of potential. I've seen it in a variety of spaces. I have a lot of passion around this color scheme in a kitchen environment, in a kitchen space, but a kitchen that also is connected to a breakfast space or a demo kitchen. Again, the idea of integrating a variety of spaces into one. This is really evoking that cheerfulness that I want to be a part of an experience. Going back to having that appetite and having that feeling towards eating or dinner time, this definitely evokes it with the citrus colors and the bright hues. Really lends itself towards that bold, colorful, energetic space. So on that topic, this color scheme, going green, really is a very different twist from the last one we just talked about. We still are looking at that freshness that a lot of people crave and are looking for, but we are looking at a much more subtle color palette. At the same time, greens can go a long way when it comes to just being very neutral and very pleasing for a variety of people and a variety of eyes. So for example, greens that are in here, some of them are a little bit more of a pop, like that chartreuse, but there's others that are definitely considered more timeless and that you can work with in a variety of spaces. The touch of nature in the patterns that you see on the screen make a difference as well. Again, relating back to outdoors and back to wellness and the idea that we were talking about earlier, Jeanna, where getting people outside. This is going to inspire somebody to be inside as well as outside.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I've seen that pop of green a lot lately.
Exactly. It's the idea of how to pop that color scheme. And when it comes down to it, green, chartreuse specifically, is a great way to do that. People love the green tones. And again, you can push it a little bit more with the chartreuse. So also, I found this color scheme interesting, a unique way of using this scheme. More and more, we are considering making sure that a space feels appropriate for both genders. And I spoke a little bit about that earlier. This color scheme, I think you could have a lot of fun with unexpected locations, like, for example, a salon. Many times you consider salons very feminine. But what about the men that want to experience or need to get a haircut or whatever it happens to be? They want to feel like they're at home as well and don't feel out of place. So this color scheme has a lot of potential in areas, not just the lobby, but also places like a salon. blue hues. So this definitely has a very rich palette. It also has got a little bit of a moody feel to it between the velvets and the little vintage inspired space. There's a lot that you can do. Relating back to some of the points we talked about earlier about activity spaces or event areas, this evokes a music space. This evokes really a fun jazz space. There's a lot that you can do with this area. This can be created with an activity space, event area, but I could also see an adjacent area being worked into this color scheme. That great floral fabric that we're showing would make amazing dining room chairs nearby. So there's a lot that you can do with this color scheme, and we're seeing more and more of these tones in senior living communities. So speaking of unique color tones, this palette creates a lot of great options, and I think that they're very unexpected. A lot of people don't think purple and a lot of purple for a building, but why not? How this really works is varying textures, the velvets, the touches of the crystal, the leathers, and then where you can, that pop of true purple, but balancing it with the gray tones as well. Depending on who you ask, there is a limit to the purple. But the idea of, this gives you that extra inspiration. And choose where you use the colors. That fun pop of purple, use in certain spaces. Transform it into more of burgundies and others, more gray tones in different spaces. So again, playing with these color tones can be one space, like a gorgeous private dining room, but it also can be your entire community. It can be a color scheme like this.
Very fun. All right. So those are our 6 trends. Open concept, fresh, flexible wellness, shared meals, eye-catching artwork, inspiring outdoor spaces, tech-forward, and color trends. Ladies, do you have any final thoughts on the trends or how to get started implementing them?
I would just say don't be afraid. Just get started. Pick something that resonates with you and look at your community currently and how could you create an open concept. There's a lot of these things that you can do all at the same time in one space. You can create an open concept that has a fresh, flexible wellness feel that maybe is your dining space, that you have great artwork in, that you have great outdoor space, that maybe has some great sounds because of the technology that's going on and the colors that use the colors that you are seeing in the trends here today. So you can use all of them, you can use one of them, but just don't be afraid.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for your time today. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to open it up for questions. So again, if you do have questions, please submit them via the chat or the Q&A feature in WebEx, and we'll get to them. We have a couple that came in, so we're going to start with these. So this is on the logistical side, but if I hire an interior designer to help me renovate my dining room, how long does a typical project take, and how would I budget for it?
That's a great question. How long does a typical project take? It depends upon, first of all, the size of the room, what you want to do. Are you just doing furniture? Are you looking at renovating the entire space? Typically, the designer should be able to help you with that budget, at least with the furnishing piece of it. A lot of times they'll be able to put together a budget based on what type of furniture are you looking for. Also, as far as artwork, window treatments, any specialty things that you want to be able to do in there, they should be able to help you out most definitely with that budget. When it comes to if you're going to replace flooring or painting, engage a contractor, a local contractor, to at least give you a bid on changing out the flooring to potentially a vinyl plank, or if you have a higher end dining space that you do want to put carpet in, look at things like that. But it should typically, again, depending upon how long or what you want to do, it can take anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks, which is furniture time, time for them to fabricate and make the furniture, up to maybe about 3 months if you're doing some construction in there.
Okay.
I hope that was a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And that's what it comes down to, is that we can help really get that experience that we were talking about, but also functionally make sure that the design is successful as well.
Here's a question that came in. Are there particular trends with types of lighting, i.e. brighter, higher temperature lights, down, up lighting, etc.?
Another great question. Lighting is I don't know that it would necessarily be a trend as more than a consideration. The more ambient lighting is the more yellow lighting that you're going to see is more appropriate when you first wake up and when you're ready to go to bed at night. So plays back to that circadian rhythm that I was speaking to with the outdoor spaces. You want your lighting to create that circadian rhythm as you're going through the day.
Sure.
So as somebody's waking up, you don't want the bright blue lights shining down upon somebody. You want them to naturally be able to wake up and start to engage in their day. But as the morning goes on, as they're going out into a more public space, creating more of that, I would say, brighter light. Daylight is a great temperature. Again, you want to simulate the daylight that's outside. Then as your afternoon, early evening is coming along, how can you warm up that temperature of light too? So creating different accent lighting pieces to give you a warmer glow that will, again, take you into the evening time that will help you settle down and get ready for bedtime.
All right.
Exactly. And then on the lighting topic, that also affects a lot of our trends. When it comes to one of the last things we talked about was color trends. Colors are going to read very different depending on your light levels, depending on the day. Again, what bulb you have, how much layering of light do you have, the task lighting where it makes sense, the more ambient lighting, again, really relates back to some of those trends. Artwork. We are seeing creative lighting around artwork as well. So there's a lot that you can do with artwork, and it can definitely make a space.
All right. Amanda, this one probably is for you. Do you have any references you can point me to regarding aging eyes and color trends?
So that is something that is not only a trend, but also something that we're always very aware of. Knowing as a whole, aging eyes, you are looking at lighting, you're looking at textures and spaces very different. It tends to yellow your coloring. So as a designer, we do have specific lensed glasses that we can take on and off to experience different lighting. So what are you looking at lighting through aging eyes, and how does it affect your spaces different? Gray tones read very different. In general, I don't necessarily have one specific location, but that is a constant something that you do want to keep an eye on. And again, we are always watching that because it is changing.
Sure.
I would say that the differentiation of tones and saturation help out with that a lot too. So we are showing a lot more bold trends, which do help with the aging eye. So I would say the trends are really helping with the aging eye right now. It's giving you that differentiation and that depth perception so people can see the differences between table edges, seat edges, floors, things like that. So we do really take into consideration aging eye when we're looking at trends for colors.
All right. And now for anyone interested in learning about the featured furnishings products that Direct Supply offers that relate to each of these trends that we just covered, please help me welcome back our wonderful design consultant, Amanda.
Thank you. In this portion, we are really going to focus on how can we not only build out the spaces that we were just talking about, but how can you furnish it, finalize the overall look. So one of the first trends that we talked about earlier, Jeanna spoke to the idea of open concept. This open concept space can be created by using great pieces of furniture and fabrics. For example, up on the screen, we are showing a space that we were able to pull together. Again, you're getting that open concept feeling, but functionally you can do that through furniture. For example, we are showing the Holseg Remy chair. We're showing it in a variety of spaces. We're showing it as in a variety of styles. This specific frame is the Holseg Remy that comes in a family of pieces. So you've got the counter height stool, the standard chair. You have an accent chair that we show here. There's a lot that you can do when it comes to furnishings. This specific shot shows a variety of furniture. So for example, on the back portion, we're looking at a great console table and a great farm table. Both pieces you can achieve through Hooker Furniture. They've got some great pieces that, again, give you that great texture and interest that you're looking for, and that really make a space like this. So in that same area, zooming in a little closer, getting closer to the fireplace, other areas that can really be built out on the furnishing side of it is creating unique pieces of furniture. We can offer furniture, for example, which is labeled F. That's a Calex Emery lounge chair. that specific lounge chair will give you that extra detail. You can customize those wood framed chairs. There's a variety of spaces you can put those. It's a gorgeous chair in the medium wood tone. It's also gorgeous in a white painted tone. So there's a lot that you can do on the furniture side of it. We are also showing some more hooker furniture, end tables, and some accent pieces to finish off the space. Other furniture that is, again, based on some of our trends is the fresh, flexible wellness trend. To really support this trend, we spoke to it a little earlier, is be creative on both the programming of activities as well as hosting the space. And the way that you can do this and make the furnishings work for you is to be flexible. The more flexible you are with the furnishings, the better. For example, we are showing this Maxwell Thomas, one of our furniture pieces. It's a great storage bench. This isn't just a storage piece. It also is a great place to sit down, touch base if this is something that you're actually sitting and relaxing for a little while, or you're just sitting on it very briefly. But again, using a piece of furniture in a variety of uses, it's also some great storage. And because of it being Maxwell Thomas, there's a lot that we can do with customizing the fabrics and finishes as well. This specific area has this Mighty Light portable dance floor. This space, again, when it comes down to it, it makes the space. It will give you that flexibility of being able to have an event, dance, enjoy the area, but it's very easy to set up and to put away as well and store. It's not going to take up a lot of space to store. So again, making sure that, when you have these great ideas and these great programming activities, so that we can help furnish them so that they're easy to execute and to use. So another trend is encouraging shared meals. We talked a variety about that, of projects that we've done, ways of really executing this space. It comes down to a lot of space planning and being flexible with what you use. This slide really showcases the variety of furniture that we can offer. Maxwell Thomas Ridgeland dining chair that you see in the foreground has a lot of great interest with the wood tones, as well as it coordinates well with our Maxwell Thomas butcher block dining table. We have a very functional metal base that makes it easy to clean. It also makes for a very sturdy piece of furniture, which is always something to consider for dining tables. People tend to like to grab onto them, so we want to make sure that they're sturdy. Other pieces of furniture that we specialize is the Maxwell Thomas banquette. This one specifically seats 2 people. You can customize the upholsteries on it and really create a special space. So eye-catching artwork. We talked a variety of aesthetics that you can do. We talked about different substrates, but that's a very small amount of what can be done in a space. This is some other pieces. It's Artline 3D illustrations. Is some great new pieces of art from this Artline company that we work very closely with. They make great 3D functional pieces that give you that tactile feeling. Recently, I finished a project where we did a very large gallery wall with these Artline 3D illustration. It was a full wall, ended up being a very whimsical addition to the space, and also a little quirky because each one was a little different. So speaking to experiencing artwork, we have other pieces from Artline color blocking tactile art that you see in the top left. That's actually a fabric. It can be a great velvet fabric that you want to touch and feel and experience. We can customize that upholstery and do a variety of patterns, textures, a vinyl, something that feels like leather. On the bottom right-hand corner, we're looking at some framed 3D art. Again, going back to making every space special and unique in experience. For example, a long corridor is a perfect place for a textured panel. So on that topic, really building out a space for the furnishing side of it, outdoor spaces, inspiring the outdoor space. We talked about that earlier, but what do you do with the physical pieces of furniture to really create that space? First off, consider pieces like the fire table, as well as Summer Classics has some great lounge pieces. These specific furniture is also senior living specific. Us as designers know to focus on specific scales, sizes, making sure the seat depth is not too deep, the height is good, and these are pieces that are very much considered on the outdoor furniture. Sometimes they can be deeper, but this specific furniture line, the Wood Art and the Summer Classics, has some great pieces.
And to note, you don't have to do a fire table. You can do this as just a regular cocktail table out there, which is also a very safe way of creating a space like this too.
Exactly. It comes down to having that flexibility with outdoor furniture. Mm-hmm. So on the outdoor spaces, there's other things that you can do. There's a By the Yard outdoor collection is something that we use often. They have, By the Yard has a lot of great pieces. What's unique about By the Yard, and we actually have 2 different spaces showing it, is that it actually is a recycled milk jugs. Which gives you that extra durability, very low maintenance outdoor furniture. You're not going to have to touch up with painting. You don't have to worry about it really being in rough shape with being outside. And so it works really well in a variety of climates.
Even here in Wisconsin.
Even here. You can brush off the snow. But, talking back to not only the inspiring outdoor spaces, but also inspiring dining spaces. And this one shows very well of how do you pull together that destination dining room, not just in the inside of your community, but on the outside. So through different seating arrangements, we've got benches that would be from the Daybreak dining collection that have coordinating dining chairs. That same collection By the Yard also has some great dining tables. Finishing off a space to make sure it's nice and functional. Make sure you have umbrellas, a variety of spaces to work with the sun and the overall weather side of it. So as you can see, this should be very familiar for everyone. We were talking about tech-forward spaces earlier, again, focusing on how to design it, but there's also more to it when it comes to those details of making sure that the furniture works right for you. First off, you want to make sure that there's a variety of levels of seating. For example, we have some higher, taller seating in the Kellogg's Addison and counter stools in the left side of the screen. We're looking at our Maxwell Thomas Quick Ship recliners. The idea of a recliner that not only swivels, but also can recline back. When it comes down to it, if anything needs to be moved, it can also easily be moved. Talking about the idea of getting really into your virtual reality and just taking up a little extra space. So how do you make sure that the furnishings work for you?
All right. Well, thank you, Amanda, for that great information. I do want to add in a little plug. If you want to see any of this furniture in person, please reach out and schedule a visit with us. You can come and see our Senior Living Specific Design Center. And if you have any questions about the products discussed, please reach out to your Direct Supply account manager, or you can contact us at webinars@directsupply.com. For more information about our upcoming webinars or to view past webinar videos, please visit directsupply.com/webinars. And once again, thank you to our presenters today.
Thank you.
And thank you for attending today.